Hi, everyone. Welcome to Next to Media. I'm Mike Shields. I'm here again, once again, with my regular guest, Emily Riley, consultant to the ad tech universe and former analyst. Emily, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. Another rainy one, but we'll get through it, Mike.
Yeah, it's kind of dark and miserable and actually a little cold, which is a downer.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's fine. It's good for the grass. So a million things to talk about. I'm been buried in Newfront mania, but then there's been a lot of ad tech earnings. Should we start with, you can bring in AppLovin and Trade Desk into this. Really interesting. Did we overdo it on the Trade Desk gloom and doom? We were looking for a canary in the coal mine a couple months ago. What do you make of their pretty positive month and what it says about where things are in this business?
I agree. I think people were thinking to themselves, this is the beginning of the end. Last quarter was also the beginning of the tariff insanity. So when they announced Q4 results, everybody was sort of freaking out anyway.
There's got to be a sign here that this is the turn, right? Something's happening.
100%. So when they came out, beat expectations, you look at what they said did well. And honestly, it's the stuff that they've been building towards for a while, including OpenPath, for example, which is a little bit more of a direct buying opportunity for...
You've been kind of waiting for that to show itself a little bit as valuable.
Yeah, exactly. And, he, like in the earnings, there was like this explanation of the blip and it came true. They tried to move people over to a new platform. It wasn't working as fast as they thought. Now it's working and their revenue went up. So I think people are like, okay, so we should believe Jeff Green when he's speaking.
Who's definitely got an edge to him, by the way, lately. It's funny on LinkedIn. He's defensive. He's not liking this position of being criticized a little bit.
Well, maybe that'll go away now. I mean, people see him coming back. He bounced back. Yeah, I mean, the trade desk is so big. The next thing that we're going to see, I think, is how much of it is going to become fully automated.
Yeah.
As they start weaving AI into all this stuff.
And I guess I don't know if the Trade Desk is a bellwether for the advertising market. It's pretty good, probably a pretty good indicator. And I also probably think that their growth in CTV is just they're in a good spot in an ascendant space. But I don't know what it means broadly.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's easy to forget about the long tail of advertisers. So if you look at a Google or a Meta, or even Amazon, a huge part of their revenue is coming from these much smaller advertisers.
Yes.
Whereas the Trade Desk, most of the revenue comes from big agency buyers that are talking to,
that's true. That's their heritage, was getting in with the big, the big agencies.
Yeah, exactly. And they're pretty locked in, so if you are an advertiser that works with an agency, pretty high chance that you're working with Trade Desk.
Yeah.
And as long as those big advertisers aren't going to go full self-serve automation, then the Trade Desk has a really important role to play, because media buying agencies have proven they can buy tech, but they still need they're not going to build as much tech as they wish that they could.
It's interesting. I bounced around a bunch of the new fronts this week, and there's the upfronts coming up next week. I'm looking for people to say to me, oh my God, my client is pausing everything for the tariffs. Not that I want that to happen, but I keep waiting, and I'm not hearing that. It's just a lot of, we have to proceed with business. I haven't gotten the scary call yet from the client to cut everything. But no one knows anything either. So I guess that's all pretty good for the business. It's just a weird time.
Well, people keep buying stuff. You still have company goals. I think part of it is going to show up when prices start going up. So the Wall Street Journal, for example, had an article about when Apple is going to start having to raise their prices on devices. So right now, people are sort of fear buying, and you see it with cars. You see it with all these things that have parts that come from Asia. Anything with metal in it or chips. And so actually people are like kind of in a buying frenzy. It's not going to last.
No.
But you're going to see the prices go up. Do you still advertise? Do you advertise the same way? One of the interesting things I heard was people that are in the catalog business are worried about shipping catalogs because they have to stay true to the prices that are printed in the catalog.
That's interesting. That you can't. Those are done well in advance, and you can't just like throw those out there and then everything changes. That's interesting.
You're like, oh, sorry, I changed our minds. We doubled the price since you got it in the mail. So digital's kind of in a good position because at least it's real time.
You can turn it on and off and change it as you go. Yeah. It does seem like it's going to be. It's so hard. There's a lag on. The holidays are going to be up in the air, I think, for certain categories, toys, and sounds like, or it might be a challenge. So we'll see what happens with brands. So that's a very weird place to plan from. But I want to get back to what you mentioned, the agencies and their ties to the Trade Desk. Interesting this week. A couple of things. Group M is no longer it's now WPP Media. and then there are layoffs happening, which is not totally surprising because Brian Lesser has been very vocal about we're not going to do it. We're not going to have as many people. We're not going to need as many media planners. But I wonder if is it a great excuse right now to use AI or say we're doing this because of AI or the market, and then just get smaller, or is something going on here?
Oh, AI. I want to talk to you, Mike, about AI in a couple ways. Talk about with the agencies first. Yeah. So WPP eating the whole Group M brand seems a little weird to me. I mean, Group M has a great brand.
I agree and disagree. So it's funny because I think it definitely stood for like this buying power, like clout.
Number one media buying entity for a long time.
But also, does anybody care about like whether you work at Mindshare or Group M or this, like that? Over time, I feel like these things all blend together in my head.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's an industry term. Literally nobody outside of the industry has any idea what that means. That's fair. But, I do wonder when you say so confidently that we're going to fire people and use AI to make decisions on these multi-million-dollar ad campaigns, it's a bit of a gamble. I mean, right now, agentic AI is the new name of the game. So goodbye LLMs. Hello, agentic AI. Right. Basically means humans just let the AI go.
And you're in a service industry telling your clients that's what we're going to be. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the reasons why TV has been sold through direct salespeople for so long is because relationships matter in ad sales.
Yeah.
And so, digital was crummy, low quality stuff for so long. People didn't really care that a lot of it was automated, but that's changing with CTV.
Yeah.
Like relationships do matter. And like the prices are pretty high on some of this stuff. So I do wonder where it's going to go. Is it going to just be the long tail, low price display stuff?
Yeah, because are you going to a place? You're right. That's related to the point where are you going to a place where maybe the tech will be smarter and the media buying more efficient, but you will be losing the power of relationships with the biggest money part of the market, right? Like, maybe that's better long term, but it feels like some decision making and some deal making will be lost there, which is dangerous.
Weird. You think of like, okay, I work at a brand. I have $2 million to spend next month and I want regular reporting. Do I ask the AI to give me the reports? Right. And do I believe the AI? And can it optimize for me? I don't know what any of that looks like today. I mean, I don't think anybody's really spelled out the details.
Yeah. It's kind of like what down the road, what is a media agency and what is its role? And that is going to be evolving.
Yeah. I mean, it also is like already pretty automated. Programmatic is there because of automation at some level anyway. Advertisers have been asking to open the black box. They've been asking for more transparency. AI does not promise to do that.
No, it makes the box blacker and dark and bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just becomes this like completely impenetrable. Who knows what's going on?
Which is, not maybe the value they had in mind with that kind of relationship. You said you wanted to talk about AI more. What's on your mind?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now, what I think we're seeing more of is this announcement that agentic AI is coming. So Brian O'Kelly had made an announcement that they're going to be adding that to Scope 3. You have a couple of ad tech veterans over at Firsthand. So you've got Michael Rubenstein and John Heller, who is at Freewheel. Michael Rubenstein, obviously.
AppNexus, right?
Brian O'Kelly, AppNexus guy. And they're talking about agentic AI. There was actually a recent publication of the new AI landscape, what tech companies are flipping to become AI companies. And it's the same thing. It's this concept of let the AI go.
And just to be clear, what you're talking about, because there's the agentic AI is going to book my vacation for me and buy my clothes. But you're talking about in the B2B transaction space?
Ad tech decision making. So interacting with consumers in a creative.
Yeah.
Figuring out from your media plan where to buy and just making those decisions, deciding the price points on its own, doing a lot of stuff on its own. It's almost like you said to your AI agent, hey, I'd like to travel somewhere warm. And you wake up in the morning like, okay, your whole trip has been booked. And you're like, wait a minute, was I not allowed to tell you that I prefer the Bahamas over?
It's funny. I just had this because I've been actually arguing with people about this, and I'm typically wrong on these things, but I'm not certain consumers want to relinquish control over things as much as like my wife and I just did a trip and the planning is a pain in the ass. Like you're trying to look at TripAdvisor and look at the reviews and talk to friends and figure out what's the right call. And it would have been theoretically cool to let some agents do that. But then you're like, wait, this is not the vacation I exactly wanted. I think I wonder if consumers are ready for that. But that's not really what you're asking about right now.
Well, no, I 100% agree. It's also like, are media buyers ready for that? Are people at brands ready for that, to relinquish control?
Yeah.
But here's the nerd version of this. There are studies that recently came out. TechCrunch reported on it. So do you know about AI hallucinations?
Yes. And it's apparently getting worse, right?
Well, getting way worse. Yeah. So Nature published an article literally like last week on this. It's the New York Times covered. It's like up to 25% of the time.
Not good. That's troubling.
BS.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you look at the hilarious, like, I don't know if you remember this, a long time ago, it was like Omar Tawakkala, I think, said it. He was like, if you flip a coin and you do heads or tails on whether or not a cookie is for a male user or a female user, it's like worse than 50-50.
Right, right. Which is like the one thing they should get right is like,
yeah. And it's like so
gender.
Wrong. Exactly. And so you're using similarly bad data right now to make decisions in digital media.
Yeah.
Like, we're just going to like let the AI go on this. It's bad enough if it's like, well, travel data is more or less accurate. You know, it's like you're booking a vacation. It's like, there's a very specific list of flights that the AI can choose from.
Yeah.
You're talking about reams and reams of semi-accurate / inaccurate.
Right. You can have mistake upon mistake upon mistake.
Yeah, and it compounds itself.
Right. Although on the flip side, there's been, the brands have been letting it go a little bit with Meta and Google and those AI media platforms. But it just came out this recently that Google's opening up the black box a little bit there, where they're going to have a little more transparency. I wonder if you're going to have to find some kind of balance here where there's some control and some, or are enough marketers going to say like the performance is so good, I don't really care what happens, even if it makes mistakes.
Well, again, this goes back to that bifurcation of big advertisers and little advertisers. I think little advertisers are happy to let go of the reins and say, do what you got to do.
They don't have the resources anyway. Yeah.
100%. And Meta knows that. That's why Mark Zuckerberg is like, oh, we're going to take over all advertising online.
And actually make it bigger, make it a bigger part of GDP, which I thought was kind of crazy, but fascinating.
Right. I mean, you look at Amazon essentially operates like that now. They're like, we're not going to tell you anything. You just input a couple things and at the end of the month, we'll send you a bill.
So getting back to what you mentioned with Brian O'Kelly and all these guys coming into this space, do we think there's going to be, it's funny, I don't know what I expect. I was talking to somebody, I thought maybe by now we would have, 20 new AI DSPs in the market, or so, like it would just be a whole bunch of new startups, a new wave of ad tech. Is this going to be disruptive to ad tech entirely? Is it going to change is it the existing players are going to just adopt all this stuff? I don't know if anybody knows this, where we're headed right now.
There have been some AI announcements. So just last week, PubMatic announced their beta for a big switch to their Activate platform, which will be a lot more AI driven.
Yeah.
A lot of it is a sort of an efficiency play, obviously. So just making smarter, faster decisions, which for any media buying middle tech totally makes sense.
That's
like
good.
AI does do the math better. So I totally get that. I think that there are a couple of sort of programmatic details that we have to figure out if they work or not using AI. And that's what the tests are all going to be. The whole beta is, does programmatic work fast enough? Does it scale enough?
Right.
Like PubMatic owns its own servers. So that helps for them because they don't have to pay somebody else if they need to scale way up while they're using AI. But all of that is sort of what remains to be seen.
I had the founders from Vine on my show earlier this week. They were making a big push in AI. Yeah. And obviously the Trade Desk is going to do that and everybody else.
Yep. Matt, I think announced some AI.
Speaking of totally not AI related, the new fronts and upfronts are happening. Like you mentioned, they're still very relationship driven. Like we've said, it's a weird moment to be asking brands to make long-term commitments to anything, but it seems like it's business as usual for the moment. I actually want to ask you, I was writing about, it's never clear to me whether there's a TV market versus a new front market, if they're different things or not. But the TV manufacturers are all out in force. And I was a big doubter about this, but do you think the Samsungs, LGs, and Vizios of this world are long for the ad business?
It's funny you say that. I would even put like Comcast Universal Ads in the same bucket in some ways, which is you have companies that have sort of previously been considered on the publisher side that are really more techie or like middlemen.
Hardware.
Hardware. They all have their own buying platforms at this point for CTV. Some of them are integrated with a bunch of self-service tools to make it easier. And they're really just going for it. They're hoping that CTV becomes democratized. Like it used to be, TV was only for the big, rich, fancy.
The top 300 brands or whatever.
Yeah. So if you unlock your CTV content to a whole new suite of advertisers because you have self-service stuff, you have this ability to make creative for way cheaper than, a $2 million commercial. Now it takes $10,000 or $10, who knows? Then they have a game to play. They have the content, they have the access to the audience. It kind of depends on what CTV media buying looks like with the smaller advertisers.
Yeah. And with the you mentioned Universal Ads from Comcast, I wonder, like, if they have a lot of non-Comcast partners involved at least from what they've announced, Paramount, others.
Yeah.
I just wonder if a existing, it's actually very similar to what we've said about Google for many years. Should a seller of advertising also be the marketplace manager? And will that work over time? No one seems to care right now, but I wonder if that will, if there's a desire for independence. No one is
calling them a monopoly.
Right. Because it's not big yet.
Right. If they're setting prices across a whole bunch of different individual entities and it becomes something of a market maker, then you could imagine people starting to complain that it's monopolistic. Right now, though, you look at some of the top on-screen video watching, it's YouTube.
Yeah.
It's, so there's still
and YouTube is probably they're the furthest along in terms of democratized buying, right? Like they haven't been this select group of advertisers. They don't have they don't have that kind of legacy. I know they've been trying to crack TV, and I think they've done a good job of it, but it's going to be interesting to see how much they can, quote unquote, like drive the market. Like in the past, the number one TV network would sort of like set the tone and the pricing, and it's obviously a different world, but they have the most viewership, but they're still viewed in a certain way by certain brands. I wonder how much they'll be able to run the show this year.
Well, so some of it has to do with flagship content. So the Super Bowl, you've got the FA World Cup going on in soccer. So there are these like crazy streaming deals that are being done worldwide. Like ESPN, for example, has like exclusive US rights to FA Cup. And that stuff is weirdly crossing boundaries from old school media companies to these new school digital companies. So like an Amazon or a Netflix has rights to all this top tier streaming sports stuff. That's going to actually, I think, drive more of the conversation in the market than the sort of long tail.
That is, it's almost like YouTube has done a fantastic job, but I wonder if they missed a moment by, they didn't grab some NBA rights. They have some NFL, but not a huge amount like that. That still puts them a little bit on the sidelines, to use a sports analogy, on what is still that's where the live viewing still happens, and it's a dominant part of the market. That's going to be really interesting to see if they can play that.
Well, and it's funny too, because it's like, again, we go back to automation versus people. If you're a human being working for a brand, you're saying, I want to be in the Super Bowl, or I want to be, during the
I want to see my ad during these big things. Yeah.
I want my ads there, and I'm going to pay what would maybe mathematically be difficult to prove out as worth buying.
But that's how humans are. Yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense.
And, those metrics aren't perfectly tied through this, whole spreadsheet that some AI is going to be able to ingest and understand today. So there's got to still be that bigger conversation happening between the media companies and the buyers.
Yeah. One last thing, you brought this up, and there's an Axios piece around the battle for the new search frontier, and it's like there's so much we think we know where the market is today is going to be representative of where it's headed, and it could be a complete redo. I wonder what your thoughts are on that, and then did you see the CEO of Instacart? I want to mispronounce her name, Fidget Simco, I think her name, but she was a long time Meta executive. She jumped over to OpenAI, which seems to be indicating that they're going to get bigger into advertising. What do you make of the broader? That's a lot to ask, but this broader search redo.
I have a favorite story from when I was an analyst actually at Jupiter, when Mark Zuckerberg had just graduated from school or just left school, and it was his girlfriend at the time, now his wife's graduation the next day. They stopped by and met with me, and shout out to David Card,
Wow.
longtime old school analyst,
Yeah.
in like Adidas shower shoes, sitting there. And we were like, all right, Facebook, cool. So when are you going to start advertising on your platform? And he was like, we don't believe in advertising. This is the site for the people. And then,
That's
like
cute.
6 months later, I was like, oh, guess what? They're going to put ads on the site. It's a revenue stream. Like, you're a fool not to pick up on a revenue stream that's like very well accepted by all humans on earth as like a way for them to pay less for stuff that they want. So, it's a perennial thing where you have this founder who believes in some, vision of their
idealistic,
own, how to be pure.
Yeah.
As soon as they realize they can grow, 6 times faster if they just put ads all over the place.
Right.
It's a really difficult thing to say no to. So, yeah, especially if they said they were going to buy Chrome, they're clearly trying to become a little bit more user friendly and something that the regular consumer is interacting with.
Yeah.
And if they're trying to do that, there's going to be a way to monetize it. Advertising isn't a bad one.
Now, I guess the jury is out on how advertising will work in, call it answer-driven search, conversational search, where you're not looking through lists of links and then populating them with ads. You got to figure out the magic formula, but I think it seems inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. People are now trading insights on how to do the prompt better.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it is a different skill.
Yeah, and sharing prompts with each other. And you get to a point where you're realizing people are getting completely different results because prompts are so much larger and more complicated. And there's a huge ripple effect to that. So one is, am I getting unfair information because my prompts aren't as cool as some fancy person over here? Do they get better pricing or access to cooler goods than I do because I don't even know to ask for it? And the other one is, I think, a little bit different, which is more like SEO and SEM. Like, if I'm a seller or if I'm a publisher with content, how do I optimize towards that?
How do I work the system if I can?
How do I work the system? So everybody's sort of trying to decide what this whole brave new world is going to look like.
Well, there's a lot of time to figure that out. Emily, awesome conversation. Thanks again. And let's do this soon.